Have you ever held a handful of old silver coins and wondered, what if these coins could save you in a crisis? What if the key to surviving a currency collapse, supply chain chaos, or a grid down scenario isn't some high tech gadget, but the very coins your grandparents used every day? Well, stackers and preppers alike, this video could change how you look at your silver. Because today we're diving deep into one of the most debated, most misunderstood, and possibly most powerful tools in any prepper's toolkit. Constitutional silver, junk silver, 90% silver, whatever you call it, it just might be your ticket to bartering in a world where paper money is worthless. But is it really practical? Would anyone actually trade for these coins? And are you wasting your time? Or stacking the ultimate survival asset? Let's dive right in. What's up, you guys? It's Ocean here. They don't make money like they used to, and that might save you. Think gold is too expensive for barter? You might be right. But here's what to stack instead, and why silver dimes might be the new dollar when the grid goes down. Constitutional silver refers to U.S. dimes, quarters, and half dollars minted in 1964 or earlier. These coins contain 90% silver by weight, and they just look like the coins we use today, but they're the real deal when it comes to metal content. You might hear them called junk silver. That doesn't mean they're worthless. It just means they're not collectible in the numismatic sense. They're valued for their silver content, not rarity. Here's a quick cheat sheet. The silver dime contains about 0.072 troy ounces of silver, a silver quarter about 0.18 troy ounces, and a half dollar clocks in around 0.36 troy ounces of silver. Because these coins are recognizable, fractional, and circulated, they're some of the most versatile silver options out there for prepping. What did the silver quarter say to the copper penny? You're not even in my weight class. Troy ounces. There's a reason so many prepping guides recommend constitutional silver. It checks all the boxes. Recognizability, people know what a dime is. You don't have to explain it. Small denominations, you can barter for food, water, medicine, whatever, without overpaying. Durability. These coins are built to circulate. A few scratches, no big deal. And no need to test. Most folks won't question the authenticity of a 1964 quarter. Try that with a silver round they've never seen before. It also ties into the principle of decentralization. If the power goes out, the banks close, or the dollar hyperinflates, silver dimes still work. They're immune to digital outages. Why did the prepper bring a bag of silver dimes to the party? You heard it was a change of plans. Okay, would people actually barter for these? Let's address the elephant in the room. In a real-world economic breakdown, would people actually trade for old silver coins? The short answer, yes, if they know what it is. And history backs that up again and again. I'll give you a couple historical examples. In Argentina, during Argentina's economic collapse, this is around 1998 to 2002, the peso rapidly lost value. Banks froze accounts, and people were forced into a cash economy overnight. Barter clubs emerged nationwide, and silver jewelry and coins became a medium of trade for essentials. It wasn't just gold that people sought, it was anything real, trusted, and tangible. How about Venezuela? Right, 2010s to present most recently, hyperinflation rendered bolivars nearly worthless. Venezuelans turned to barter. US dollars, and yeah, even silver and gold coins are used. In rural areas, there are documented cases of people cutting small gold flakes off a silver coin or trading silver jewelry for food, fuel, medicine, whatever they're wanting to get. And recognizable silver items, especially foreign coins, have been bartered there because they held trust and perceived sustainability from the people. Zimbabwe is another good example. Consider Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe experienced one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in history, when prices doubled every day and the official currency became meaningless. People resorted to bartering with commodities. This was during the 2000s. This wasn't too long ago. Over there, they used fuel, sugar, livestock, and precious metals. U.S. silver coins weren't common there, but the concept of silver as value was well understood. So we're seeing we don't need to go that far back. In the present day, yes, this works. Look at Turkey just a couple years ago, like 2001, 2003 era, when inflation spiked and the Turkish lira plummeted. Demand for silver and gold skyrocketed. Street level exchanges started accepting coins and bullion as hedge instruments, and in rare cases, silver jewelry and coins were used in informal exchanges. Some rural buyers even preferred silver coins over unstable cash. Another present day example, Ukraine, right? 2022 to present. In some areas impacted by war and banking disruptions, people have turned to barter systems. And while food and fuel dominate, silver and gold coins have been quietly traded when digital payment systems failed. International aid workers have noted silver as a hedge and negotiation tool. So what do all these examples have in common? People recognized that silver had value, even when governments collapsed, when paper money became toilet paper, and when systems failed, silver remained silver. Its usefulness didn't rely on trust in a central bank. It relied on what it is. And when people are desperate to trade for something real, old silver coins suddenly look very new again. So how much constitutional should you stack? For basic prepping, if you're brand new, start with $5 to $10 face value. That's roughly 3.5 to 7 troy ounces of silver. For more robust preparedness, aim for $50 to $100 face value. That's about 35 to 70 ounces of silver. But don't go overboard unless you've already handled your food, water, and security needs. What's a prepper's favorite video game? Barterfield. Bullion bars are great for stacking wealth, but they're less practical for everyday barter. Here's why. They're too large. Most silver bars and rounds start at 1 troy ounce and go up from there. That's a lot of value to trade for everyday food like eggs or gas. And it's like trying to buy a pack of gum with a $100 bill. Most people won't be able to break it, especially in a crisis. Even a 1 ounce round could be worth over $40, which might far exceed the value of what you're trying to get. Another thing is suspicion. Bullion doesn't have the same trust factor as recognizable US coins. If someone isn't familiar with silver stacking, they might try to question the purity or authenticity of the silver bar or round. Ask, is this real? That's not a question you want to hear when you're trying to trade. But with the 1964 quarter, people instinctively know it's real. Another consideration is lack of change. Let's say you want to trade for a small item like a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas. A full ounce of silver is way too much. You're stuck in a situation where you either need to overpay or walk away. Without fractional denominations, making fair trades becomes difficult. You need divisible silver, and that's where constitutional coins shine. Constitutional silver solves all these problems. So now you're convinced that constitutional silver is the key to barter, but where do you actually find it without overpaying? Let's break it down. Here's some of the top sources for constitutional silver. Local coin shops, LCSs. These are the hidden gems of the silver world. Many shops keep junk silver in trays behind the counter, sometimes even below the going rate if you buy in bulk. That's a little common, something to ask for. Build a relationship with your coin dealer, and you might get first dibs on new inventory or bulk discounts. Just make sure you know the current melt value so you don't overpay. Another source for constitutional is online bullion dealers. Reputable online bullion dealers often list 90% silver in rolls or bags. They'll typically charge a premium over spot, but you get peace of mind and a consistent product. Some dealers even break it out by denominations, like you could get all dimes or all quarters, which can help if you're trying to round out your stack. Another thing to look into is garage and estate sales. These are wild cards. You might stumble into a jar of old coins priced like pocket change because that's what they used to be. But learn how to spot silver coins by date and edges. Pre-1965 US dimes, quarters, and half dollars, right? And bring cash. You never know when opportunity will strike. How about Silver Ocean's live stream auctions? Shameless plug, but it's true. Well, once in a while. I have Bullion and Libertads and vintage bars more consistently, but we have a good time. You should check it out. Okay, here's some pricing tips to avoid getting burned. Avoid paying more than $5 to $6 over spot unless you're getting something truly special, like BU condition or a rare date or something like that. Learn the melt value of a standard dime, quarter, or half dollar and do the math before buying. Watch for fakes, especially online or at flea markets. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. Want a bonus trick? Buy during market dips. When spot price drops suddenly, a lot of people panic and sell. It's your time to buy. Keep some cash or digital funds ready and swoop in when others hesitate. And avoid paying more than $5 to $6 per ounce over spot unless it's something really special. Like I said, that's a key one. I try to pay for gas with a silver quarter, the clerk said. Nice try, time traveler. Once you've built up a decent stash of constitutional silver, you need a system. When the time comes to barter, the last thing you want is to be digging through a random pile of coins, trying to figure out what you've got. Here's some practical tips. Use labeled coin tubes. Group coins by denomination, dimes, quarters, and halves, and use plastic coin tubes with secure lids. Add labels like 90% silver quarters, $10 face value, something like that, so you can grab the right ones fast. You'll thank yourself later. Many stackers don't bother counting ounces. They'll organize by total face value. For example, one $10 face value roll of quarters equals roughly 7.15 troy ounces of silver. It makes quick math easier when bartering or rebalancing your stack. And if you're stacking for preparedness, your constitutional silver shouldn't be buried 3 safes deep. Consider keeping a small stash in a grab-and-go bag or a safe that you can reach quickly in an emergency. But balance that out with proper security. Don't leave it somewhere obvious. In a real barter situation, speed and clarity matter. You want to know exactly what you have, what it's worth, and how quickly you can deploy it. A little organization now could help you save a lot of stress later. And that can be said for a lot of things. In a true emergency, or even during localized disruptions like power outages or supply chain hiccups, constitutional silver becomes a practical tool for small everyday trades. Let's walk through a few realistic barter scenarios where 90% silver coins might save the day. I'll make up a scenario. Say a neighbor down the road raises chickens. Grocery stores are closed, but you need breakfast for the week. 2 pre-65 silver dimes, right, worth roughly $3 each today, might seem odd to them until you explain they're 90% silver. Once they understand that, it's an easy swap for a dozen farm fresh eggs. Small denomination, low suspicion, fair value. Okay, how about a gas station scenario? You're running on fumes and the card reader's down. The gas station owner remembers the days when silver coins actually had silver in them, and you pull out a 1964 Kennedy half dollar, about $9-10 in melt value, and get a few gallons of gas to get home. Recognizable coin, quick trust, smooth transaction. Let me know what you feel about these in the comments. Maybe this one will hit home. And I think it's where we're at now. You borrow a tool or get help fixing a fence. Your neighbor shrugs it off cash, but lights up when you offer silver. You hand over $2 face value and mixed 90% silver coins, about 1.4 troy ounces of silver. They see it as both payment and a cool collectible. This is flexible, it feels personal, and it builds community goodwill. I'll give you another scenario. A small roadside produce stand has no card reader and you're out of small bills. You offer 4 silver quarters for a basket of avocados, strawberries, and oranges. And the vendor looks surprised, then curious, then smiles and says, "Deal." Great example of silver standing in for small cash. These are kind of simple ideas, but it could be something more serious. In a more serious scenario, you need pain medication or antibiotics during a grid down scenario. You offer 2 silver half dollars, about $18-20 in melt value, for a partial bottle. But it's not about the face value anymore. It's about the trust, utility, and something tangible. It's a high trust, high need scenario. Silver shines here. These examples aren't theoretical. They're the kind of everyday situations that stackers quietly prepare for. And with constitutional silver, you don't have to explain obscure foreign bullion or convince someone of purity. It's old American coinage. People recognize it. They trust it. And gold doesn't typically break down into bite-sized pieces. Let's talk about the downsides of constitutional silver and what it can't do. As much as I love constitutional silver, no prep is complete without understanding its limits. It's not perfect, and it's not a silver bullet. Pun intended. But let's talk about a few downsides you should be aware of. Not everyone will recognize it. While many people are familiar with old US coins, plenty don't realize that they don't contain silver. Some people may mistake them for pocket change. That means you'll sometimes need to educate others in barter situations, especially if they weren't alive before 1965. Carrying a small silver content chart or simply being prepared to explain can help. You may still need bullion or cash in some cases. Another thing is you may still need bullion or cash in some cases. Constitutional silver is excellent for small trades, but what if you need to buy a generator or a firearm or a bulk supply of food? In those situations, bullion bars or even fiat currency might be more efficient. That's why most stackers treat 90% silver as a complement, not a complete solution. 90% silver also takes up more space. A $100 face value bag of junk silver is about 71 and a half troy ounces, and it's bulky. Compare that to sleek bullion bars. Constitutional silver can fill up your safe fast. It's great for barter, less great for discrete storage or portability. And if you're stacking heavy, make sure you have the room. And another thing is it's addictive. Yeah, let's be honest. Once you start stacking 90% silver, it's hard to stop. You'll find yourself hunting for that perfect roll of quarters, checking dates, organizing your tubes late at night, and then justifying why you needed that extra bag you swore you wouldn't buy. Don't say I didn't warn you. And finally, in some emergency situations, especially internationally, U.S. constitutional silver may not be accepted at all. That's why diversity in your stack matters. Some bullion, some cash, and maybe even some gold for higher value trades. Constitutional silver is powerful, but it's one tool in the toolbox, not the whole toolbox. Okay, what's the final verdict? Is junk silver the key to barter? In my opinion, it's not just a key, it's a Swiss Army knife for barter. Constitutional silver checks all the boxes when it comes to practical, real-world trade. It's recognizable. These are coins most Americans have seen. Even if they don't know silver, that familiarity creates instant trust. They're divisible. Whether you're buying a dozen eggs or a tank of gas, you can break down your payment into dimes, quarters, or halves. No need to overpay or haggle for change. It's durable and portable. These coins were built for circulation. They're easy to carry, easy to store, and hard to fake. They're value dense and inflation resistant. Each coin holds intrinsic value tied to silver, not to fiat currency. That makes it a hedge and a currency in one. Now, is it the only answer? No. Barter is situational. Gold, silver, bullion, cash, supplies, and even skills play a role. But when it comes to small, everyday trades during a crisis, constitutional silver has no equal. It's the sweet spot between affordability, liquidity, and preparedness. So don't wait for the world to catch on. Start stacking today. Start organizing. Start prepping. Because when others are scrambling to find value, you'll already have it in your hands. All right, why did I bring silver dimes to my job interview? In case they ask about change management. Stack wide as the ocean.